Hello. Welcome. Chapter 22 of The Way of the Superior Man. Don't force the feminine to make decisions. A man abandons responsibility by expecting that his woman will always make her own decisions and then be accountable for the results. This expectation is a withholding of his masculine gift. It puts a woman in the position of magnifying her own masculine. It is good for some women to learn to animate their masculine capacity to make a decision and stick with it. But if a man abnegates his responsibility to provide his woman with the gift of masculine clarity and decisiveness, then she will become chronically sharp, angular, distrustful of his love. She will cease surrendering in love with him, cease trusting his masculine capacity, and instead become her own man. This is a good chapter because it emphasizes the difference between feminine and masculine. Right? The masculine thinks that a woman should be like him. Right? I'm going to be true to my word. I'm going to make my decision and stick to it. And that is a totally fine expectation to have of friends and work colleagues. But for an intimate partner where there's polarity between feminine and masculine, that expectation will destroy the polarity. The feminine wants to be in her feeling mode. She wants to surrender to the masculine container. When she has to make decisions and stick to them, she's forced to be in her thinking mode, her logic mode, and she's no longer in her feminine. So if you want a rich intimacy full of chemistry, it is important for the masculine to take the responsibility of making the decision. It's a little bit tricky in today's modern society where women, are all about equality and wearing the pants in the relationship and calling the shots. And that's completely fine, right? That's the stage 2. But in the stage 3, and especially if we want to maintain that chemistry and polarity, it is important as women to give the man the okay to make the decisions and encourage him and appreciate and reward him when he does set the direction for any decision. Your woman asks you for input and you say, "Whatever you want to do is fine with me." This is the statement of a friend, not a lover. As friends, you want to treat each other fairly and give each other space and independence. As lovers, you and your woman are more than just friends. You are playing the full dynamic of masculine and feminine polarity. Wouldn't you like your woman to be a goddess and offer her your feminine gifts? Offer you her feminine gifts? To evoke them, you must offer her your masculine gifts. One of your most valuable gifts is the ability to see all the options and make a decision based on this view of all the potential outcomes. And this is interesting, I think, for the modern woman. This might not feel very good reading it. It's like, how can a man see all the options and make a better decision than me? But when we're talking about feminine and masculine, it's not about women's rights or men's rights. It's not even about men and women. It's about our own inner masculine and our own inner feminine, of which every one of us has our own inner masculine and inner feminine. Some of us are born with a more feminine essence, and some more with a masculine essence. When we are true to our own essence, that's when we feel our deepest bliss. So, and the gifts that we can give, right? So, as a person with a feminine essence, I am much more sensitive in the domain of feelings than I am in the domain of logic. I might have a highly developed masculine, of which I do, having worked as an analyst for many years. But my deepest bliss is when I'm in my feeling mode, just feeling, surrendering, enjoying. And the gift of the masculine, because his essence is more masculine, he is naturally at home and better at masculine traits such as seeing all the options objectively and making a decision based on all the outcomes. Whereas I, as a feminine, am more skilled at feeling, being in tune with just all the energy that's going on, everyone's emotions. Feminine decisions are based on what feels right, and often this is the best way to make the decision. However, the point in intimacy is not simply to make the best decision, but to make the best decision while maintaining the force of masculine-feminine polarity that attracted you together to begin with. If that polarity begins to diminish, conflicts will begin to increase. When that polarity disappears, attraction disappears, and the life of the intimacy disappears with it. That's when, as a masculine, if we're forcing the feminine to take on the masculine role of setting direction, making decisions, seeing things objectively, and sticking to the decision, right? All of these feel good for the masculine. But if we impose the same standard onto the feminine, we're in a sense forcing the feminine or feminine partner into the mold of the man. And when that happens, polarity is going to decrease. And there's nothing wrong with that per se. We can have a relationship where two people are amazing friends with low chemistry. There's nothing wrong with that. Or we can have a relationship with amazing chemistry, but there are times you guys are going to get on each other's nerves for sure because the feminine and masculine are so opposite in the way they do things. So it's trade-off. But, there's something very delicious about energizing, crazy sexual chemistry. And that's what makes an intimacy very, very fulfilling, I think. Okay. You need to play the masculine pole if you want your woman to play the feminine. Offering your perspective on decisions is one way to give your masculine gift. Even on the most trivial decisions, never say, do whatever you want. If she asks you which shoes you think look better on her, make a decision and tell her. Don't just say, they're both nice. Say something like, I'd like the red shoes, but what's the most important to me is that you're happy. She is, of course, free to wear whatever she wants, but she is also the recipient of your masculine gift of decisiveness. Right? When I'm in my feminine, I'm extremely indecisive, and it just feels really, really good to not have to think and have my trustable masculine partner make the decisions while being sensitive to the feelings that come up as a result of his decision, and then he fine-tunes based on those feelings. That is the feminine bliss. If I'm on a date and my date will say something like, I'll be like, what do you want to do? And if he just says, whatever you want to do, that's one of the most annoying things that could happen. And it's a turn off. Oops. Okay. I think Deida really captures it perfectly here, where the masculine, gives a suggestion, a direction, but he also leaves it open to the feminine to decide. Right? He's not imposing, he's not being controlling, he's giving a direction, but he's not necessarily forcing her to follow it. And that's really the best of both worlds. I also feel like a lot of times the masculine says, whatever you want, or, everything sounds good to me. When I hear a guy say that, it almost feels like he's in fear. Like, it almost feels like he's afraid to say what he really wants. He's afraid to rock the boat. And I would much prefer someone opinionated, even if I don't agree with their opinions, than someone who's afraid to express what they truly feel. Someone living in that kind of fear is absolutely not trustable to the feminine, and she will not be able to surrender. Perhaps your woman is trying to make a career decision, something that will affect her for many years. She might feel into it and do what feels best to her, which would be a feminine style of making a decision. Or she might be trying to make a decision based on the different possible outcomes of her choices, which would be a masculine style. Because you have a masculine sexual essence, you will naturally be able to contribute to her masculine decision process. And most importantly for the intimacy, if you don't contribute to her masculine decision making process, the two of you will become depolarized by each other's energy. She'll be in the masculine, you'll be neutral, and there'll be nobody in the my silly cat. um, there'll be nobody in the feminine pole. This is fine for short periods of time, but if it becomes chronic, then the two of you begin to feel like friends rather than lovers. The attractive juiciness of polarity will be replaced by two buddies discussing options. And that's one of the masculine gifts, objectivity, because the feminine is so immersed in feeling. She might be able to feel the different nuances of the decision, but she's not able to step back and see the bigger picture, and that is where the masculine gift comes in. And and I think this is where the masculine and feminine really complement each other. And when we can go to the furthest of the poles, not only will we have like wonderful intimacy and chemistry. No, honey, you can't. Um, not only will you have wonderful intimacy and chemistry, right, you'll also be able to fully gift each other's from either end of the spectrum. The feminine will be able to feel the subtle nuances of the decision that the masculine might be oblivious to, whereas the masculine will be able to see things farther, clearer than the feminine is able to. So um, they're both really important for each other to help encourage each other's growth. If you refuse to offer your masculine gift by saying things like, I don't really care, it's up to you, then she will have to learn to depend on her own masculine capacity. Another way to say this is that she will begin to trust her own masculine more than yours. Then you will find that she trusts you less and less across the board. She will refuse to surrender to you even sexually because she hasn't been able to relax and trust you all day. You haven't offered her your masculine clarity and perspective. So she has to be her own man and give it to herself. I've definitely felt this in relationship. Um, and my masculine is very highly developed. And I call him Steve. And you know, when a man's not stepping up to the plate, my masculine naturally likes to jump in. Um, and then once the masculine jumps in, it's really hard to hold back and go back to my feminine, because it's like, um, Steve no longer trusts the guy, and Steve has to take the reins, and uh, and so it's really important, I think, for the masculine to be grounded in their purpose, right? Because their whole life revolves around their purpose. There's decisions. Every decision should be made going back to what's going to serve the purpose most, what's going to open me the most, what's going to open her the most. And if he's always present in uh, that level of intention as he lives, it'll be very easy for him to be decisive and very easy for the feminine to trust a man that is so rooted in his intention. As a practice, always help your woman make decisions by giving her your perspective and telling her your choices, while letting her know that you love her regardless of the decision she makes. Often, her feminine feelings will be a much better basis for a decision than your masculine analysis. So encourage her to feel into the situation and trust her feelings. But for the sake of polarity and happiness and intimacy, always tell her what you would do and why, even if you think she should make her own decision. And it could be a little bit hard to see in modern relationship, but it is definitely a gift for the feminine to have that masculine container, to feel that masculine direction so that she can relax and surrender. But at the same time, feeling his sensitivity to her feelings, knowing that he's trying to decide things, for her good. Like, once she feels that, it really helps her relax into her feminine so that she could fully give her feminine gifts. Just gotta take a look at notes here. Anything? Um, and it's not so much about equality, right? You make a decision, I make a decision. You pick one day, I pick one day. That's very second stage, and second stage is very important because we can't skip stages: first stage, second stage, third stage. But there comes a time when we there's a stage of relationship higher than just equality, and that stage is, how can we give our deepest gift in the relationship? And equality is wonderful, but sometimes it does not strike as deep, right? Because the masculine gift is the one of clarity, direction, objectivity, vision, whereas the feminine gift is feeling, surrender, love. And when the masculine can give his gift, that allows the feminine to relax and fully give her gift, which then allows the masculine to give his gift, and it just continues feeding on each other and gifting each other. So I think the takeaway from this chapter is for men, not to be afraid to offer your opinion and your direction, while at the same time being sensitive to her response and giving her the freedom to choose. And then for a woman, the takeaway is, show appreciation for your man when he gives direction, because that is his gift, right? It might feel a little bit not so good in the beginning, right? But the more you appreciate and the more he steps into that gift, and the deeper the place the gift comes from, it's going to feel more and more better and allow you to relax deeper and deeper into your feminine to achieve that deep intimacy and sizzling chemistry in relationship. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.